Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, no matter where you are. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the Moonshot podcast. This is episode 15. And today we have Jim Hicks, who is going to be talking about the Great Big Northern, which is his idea of what a vegan world would look like, a sustainable world would look like. And we're also joined by Howard Nye and Dr. Ze'ev Gross of Plantica, who are going to talk about Plantica, which is an approach to get vegans to come together and create vegan institutions. I sort of see this as, vegan institutions are created, and then we kind of have this training program for the veganauts to get to Great Big Northern and populate that. So Great Big Northern would be like the new colony that we are building, because a new system that we have to build, because a new way of organizing ourselves that needs to happen, because the old model is failing. The old model cannot be fixed. And this is what Jim Hicks has been talking about. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning, Sailesh and Dr. Nye, all of you, all the world.
Yes, it's good to have you here. Tell us about your concept of Great Big Northern and how you came up with it.
Okay, I'm gonna share my screen here. Okay.
Sure.
All right. I call it the presentation is entitled "Donkeys and Spaceships: A Quick Look at Crucial Systems That Shape Our Lives and Our Future." I wanted to acknowledge my co-author of Outcry, Stuart Scott, who is the one that introduced Greta Thunberg to the world stage at COP24 in 2018. And I mention him today because he's going into cancer surgery on Thursday, and I wanted to tell people to give your thoughts and prayers. A 12-hour procedure at the Mayo Clinic on Thursday. So a little background: as an engineer, process improvement consultant, and career business executive, I learned two basic rules early in my career. First, make sure you understand the complete system before you start making changes. And secondly, sometimes you must start from scratch and replace the whole system. Trying to transform a donkey into a spaceship is one of those times. Both are transportation systems, but trying to tweak the donkey into a system that can fly you to the moon is not going to work. So our system is not working. It's not sustainable to Mother Nature any longer. And so in our book, Outcry, the solution begins with science. And I feature 9 big picture scientists here. 3 are deceased. I'll talk about Dr. Lovelock later, but all of them are concerned about our future as a species. Some are more concerned and think it's more imminent than others. One person on this slide thinks that there's no chance there'll be any humans alive after 2030. So we'll choose not to believe him. But the point is, we don't have much time. The temperatures are going up in the Arctic faster than they are in the globe and across the globe. The decline in sea ice, as you can see, it's pretty graphic. Dr. Lovelock, who I just mentioned, weighs in on a very troubling situation that is unfolding up there. He says, just the melting of the floating ice in the Arctic Ocean will add as much heat to the Earth as all of the CO2 we have put in the atmosphere to date. He's talking about the last 300,000 years that we have been here. So that's pretty imminent. And these kind of things tell me that we've got to change our whole system of living. Changing our diet is a huge part of that, and it's the only thing that people can do on their own. So I'm saying if the Earth, he says, Dr. Lovelock, if the Earth improves as a result of our presence, then we will flourish. If it doesn't, then we will die off. So the question is the Earth improving because of our presence? There's nothing about the way we live that is sustainable today. So I have a slide here called How Green is Green Enough? No one knows for sure how green we must live to survive, or that we could even possibly survive. So my feeling is that we've got to pull out all the stops, take a hard look at every aspect of human activity on this planet, design a new system, and then attract people to move to that new system. As for imminence, I did an analysis once that if you put all 4 billion years that there's been life on this planet, in just the last, if you crammed all of that into 1 year, in the last 2 seconds of that 1 year, our population, humans, has grown from 1 billion to 8 billion in just the last 2 seconds. So we've made some serious problems here during our relatively brief reign. But regarding our survival prospects, I personally am more optimistic than those scientists because I believe there's 4 game changers that they may not be that familiar with. And one is the food choices, which this group totally gets. One is systemic change, is changing the way the system is, creating a new system. Other is artificial intelligence, and then there's leadership. But what we've got today on the planet, everybody around the world is trying to do sustainable things, but many of them are trillion-dollar band-aids. I call them willy-nilly planet stewardship. An example, the Q train in New York City that I've ridden many times. They just finished it up, 45 years and $10 billion. And it'll probably be underwater in 30 or 40 years. So that really doesn't make any sense. So Buckminster Fuller says we must quickly develop a totally new system of living, saying that you never change things by fighting the existing reality to change something. Build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. So here we go, Silesh, I'm there. America Green Region Authority, which would be the governmental aspect of this new place that we're envisioning. Gratola or GBN, Gratola, Green Region, Atlanta to LA, or the Great Big Northern, going from Seattle to Boston. I'm thinking of a 3,000-mile living corridor, 25 miles wide, where there would only be green lifestyle choices. People would apply to move there, and they would agree to abide by all of the American Green Region Authority rules. And there would be no way that they could live unsustainably because there would be no unsustainable options. So here are a few policy ideas at the Great Big Northern. By invitation only, in other words, they've got to apply. It has to be attractive to make people want to move there. But if people don't want to eat plant-based foods, they will not want to move there at first. But when their home is flooded and they're starving, it will begin to look very attractive. Only green consumption options exist for food, clothes, and everything else. Green economy, incentives for less stuff, flexible housing, no owned real estate. Vehicles are all shared. Nobody owns hardly anything. Airports for international travel, 100% plant-based eating, and population controls, only 1 child per couple. Those are just a few points to kind of paint the picture. Obviously, this is just talking points at this time. But all sorts of beautiful things could happen. We could do our sightseeing, and we could have floating cruise ships, and we could live a sustainable life and still be a wonderful life. And that's the point we have to make, is a virtual paradise on Earth that we could have in this corridor called the Great Big Northern, and then other countries could emulate, modify, replicate. So in Outcry, we envision a system of living where only green options exist. That entire corridor would fit inside the state of Oregon. So the idea here is, E.O. Wilson and others have suggested, give back to nature at least half of the Earth. So if we live in this area the size of Oregon, and we have some other acreage in order to take care of growing our food and building certain things, but we could give well over half of the United States back to nature. So what about governance, jobs, and pecking order? I used an analogy of the U.S. Aircraft carrier, 5,000 people on board. But the point is that everybody wants to be on that aircraft carrier. They have exciting jobs, uniforms, meals, a salary, entertainment, social life. There's a defined pecking order based on each person's level of contribution. The vessel is crucially important, as is our vessel. So the idea is that everybody would have a role in the Great Big Northern. And everybody's privileges would be based on what they do to contribute to the sustainability with Mother Nature. So here's our report card in terms of how we're doing without something like the Great Big Northern. We're not reducing our population. We're failing miserably. We're not developing a green global economy. We've not even thought about reducing agriculture, animal agriculture. Fossil fuel consumption is probably off this year because of COVID, but it'll go right back up. And we've not even started geoengineering options for removing CO2 from the atmosphere. So people say to me, can these guys save us? And I say, no, they cannot, for two reasons. One is they don't get it about food. They don't ever really even talk about food in those organizations. This is something Silesh liked last week. I came up with the protein myth because of the mistaken yet almost ubiquitous belief that we humans actually need to eat animal protein to be healthy. A host of incredibly powerful plant-based solutions to the world's most serious health, hunger, and sustainability crises never even make it to the table for consideration because all of our scholars have locked brains because of the locked brain syndrome. They don't seem to have a big picture plan. This is talking about those organizations up there. They don't have a vision for how a sustainable world will look. So I'm saying we must have a realistic vision and a plan for a whole new way of sustainable living in order for us to survive and thrive on this planet. So I'm going to ask you, based on Lovelock's definition of, does the earth improve as a result of each woman having 200 pairs of shoes? Does the earth improve as a result of everyone having several storage units to keep their excess junk and buying more junk? How about the trillions of golf balls and golf courses that we rob nature to build? And then there's cigarettes. 7 trillion per year, 5 trillion are littered. Does Earth improve as a result of that? No. So how urgent is our current situation? How quickly must we take action? I say we should be guided by this message of urgency from the straight-talking governor of Washington. We are the first generation to feel the sting of climate change, and we are the last generation that can do something about it. For all the children of the world, including Kamaya, for all the children of the world, we indeed must do something about it. For their sake, we must jolt ourselves into thinking differently, a process that we describe in the final chapter of Outcries. So how do we save our biosphere? We listen to the troubling conclusions of those scientists as we envision and plan our future way of life, one that may or may not look anything like the GBN, which was just a visual to help spark a global conversation about radical lifestyle changes that are not only appealing, but necessary. Sound crazy? Good, because people who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones who do. So this is kind of the end of the presentation. I give my contact information, that sort of thing. But how did I do on time there, Silesh?
You did great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for making it short for me.
Thank you so much. Now, let me see if I can add Dr. Groves.
I'm not sharing my screen. Okay.
So right now she's logged into.
Dr. Groves, can you hear us?
Yes,
Okay.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you fine. So,
Excellent, excellent. So first of all, thank you very much, Maurice.
Yes.
It was a great presentation, and I'm sorry that I missed the first part of it because of technical issues in my end. Can you hear me?
Yes, I
we
can.
can hear you fine. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. That's great. I'm very glad that we overcame these technical issues. I know that Howard is there somewhere. Can you put him on?
Okay, I'll add him on. I think his video is not on. Oh, there you are, Howard. Okay,
yeah.
good. Good.
Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. So the good thing is, hold on a second, I think it's one of my hearing sync. Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so I was really impressed by. I just heard the second half of Morris' presentation, and it really sounds, as Morris said, crazy, too good to be true. And I immediately join. I can tell you that. So,
Dr. Gross, let me interject here. Since you missed part of the presentation,
yes,
you can if you just go to YouTube and say look for donkeys and spaceships, and it'll come up. It'll be the first one. It's a 20-minute presentation that I made last week. You can see the whole.
Excellent. So donkeys and spaceship.
It'll come.
Amazing. So we will do that. I'm sure that Howard is already doing it. I see it on his face. So let's combine forces here, because what I see here is that we have a lot in common, and we have our unique adding on from each one of us. So together, I'm sure that we complement each other.
Right.
So what I see here is that there is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Morris, because again, I missed a part of your excellent presentation. But what I heard from you is there is a lot of technology involved in the change, and at the end, so it's a kind of paradox, because in a way we try to run from technology and to go to nature, but paradoxically we use technology in order to combine with nature.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's what I see here, and not only here, in other places. And I'm a great fan of combining technology in order to get back to nature. And the technology today enables us to do amazing stuff. And as much as I could hear from you, that's what you achieve there. So you harness the technology in order to get back to nature, and that's great. Now, what we want to add in Plantica, and the idea of Plantica is exactly what you described, but probably from a little bit different angle. What we want to add in Plantica is how to build all of those things through the social component, through the interaction with people, and to develop all these mechanisms, all these instruments and institutions, I would say, that will enable us to live together in this compassion world that you described. And we are really crazy in that sense, because what we see in many places, that it is very hard to bring a group of people that they will sing together, they will work together, and everybody will be happy. And we completely, I would say, believe that it is feasible. We can make it happen with the right tools. And we are not talking about only technology tools, but we are talking about human resources tools, the right institutions, and it's a lot of work, not less than the technology. And in that part, I believe that we complement what you described very nicely about the technology. So we need to bring together the component of the technology and the human part, and together to build a society that will work, I would say, seamlessly together. And that's the whole idea of Plantica. So I'm sure that after this amazing discussion, we will be in touch with you as well, in order to see how to combine our forces and make it happen.
I think one way we can combine is you guys are working on trying to promote the vegan lifestyle everywhere, and that's the most important change we all have to make. But you mentioned the technology aspect that I was focusing on is we have to make this attractive enough that most people will really want to move there. And they're not thinking about a commune of the 50s and the hippie 60s living out in the country with none of the pleasures of life. So I think we have to give people what they want, but we have to give them in a way that's sustainable. And I think what you guys are doing is paving the way for a much more rapid shift, perhaps, to the single most important element, which is the plant-based lifestyle.
Yeah.
So-
Ultimately,
so-
in any
Oh,
world,
sorry,
go ahead.
Salesh, yeah, go ahead. Go
I'm
ahead.
going to say that in a vegan world, conception of a vegan world, you have to have vegan institutions, vegan infrastructure, a vegan constitution, and a vegan currency, a vegan economy. So literally, what you are bringing here is a conception of what would the world look like. It's as if we are all going to Spaceship Earth, and we are all becoming, cosmonauts on Spaceship Earth, and deploying our technology for the good of nature, for the good of all life. Right? So it's outward focus. It's not about extracting from nature and building up our own wealth. That's what we're using technology for right now. But we can deploy it for the good of all. And there is no reason why we cannot do that. And we have to be mindful of our waste and everything, right? So we have to have integrity in our processes. So as an engineer, I know this. As an engineer who has built the work, I know that I cannot ignore certain aspects and say that's external and pretend it doesn't exist. Because then whatever I'm building is not going to work. It's not going to meet my requirements. So, and I know Jim knows that too. He's an engineer too. Right. But the social aspect of it, how to get people to work together. And we have done this. We have done this with the moon landing, right? With the same, same kind of mission that we all go on together.
That's exactly what I was thinking about with the aircraft carrier analogy.
Right.
All those people want to be there. They love being there. They're excited about their jobs. They were trained, they studied, they applied, and they're happy. They have recreation. They have a clean place to sleep. They have friends and camaraderie. And so, that's what we can create. I think with the assistance of artificial intelligence, there's nothing we can't create now.
Right.
The question is, will we?
So what do you think, Howard? Tell us your thoughts about what you heard so far.
Yeah, well, it all sounds really great. Really ambitious. Jim, it's great to hear about your ideas. One thing just about with what Plantica has been doing, I think that there is, on the one hand, for those who are interested, a vision to create a new living environment, much like Jim was talking about. And we actually have a group of folks who are interested in forming, either joining an existing plant-based vegan intentional community, which is starting up. There's one starting up here in Canada. And hopefully at the next convergence, we can have a talk or two about that. It may, Jim, look a little more I mean, it's only 10 minutes from a decent sized city, but so a lot of the folks there are interested in having an animal sanctuary component. So I think they'll be very happy to be in a slightly more rural setting. So I think on the one hand, you do have some folks who are interested in, especially with the sanctuary side of things. Going into communities that are a little bit further out, and there it really can be building a brand new environment and having people move to a new environment. The other thing that Plantica is interested in, though, is building vegan institutions in the cities where people already live. So there's folks like me who really could never move. We're not very movable. We have a lot of roots. We're very tied down to where we're currently living. And I think one of the things Plantica is interested in is trying to help build vegan institutions for people there. So we're talking about things like trying to do some urban vegan permaculture with people around here. Maybe having some local vegan health meetups. maybe the local implementation of food healers, Silas. So I know that's been an interest of Vegan World 2026. One of the things, the very small things that we're interested in Plantica with a real practical vegan economy aspect is maybe getting folks together to produce and distribute plant-based meals to the needy. There's several groups in our city that have been doing that, and I think with Plantica we'd like to work on maybe organizing a bit of that. So I think it's great to have these visions. I think it's really what's most effective is when they can combine with real practical projects that people are doing, and I think that's what we've been doing with Plantica. Like, we've got a group who's really trying to either join or set up in the very near future a vegan intentional community, and then we've got various folks who I think as soon as the spring comes and it gets a bit warmer, we'll be interested in doing things like actual permaculture projects, maybe actually getting a local implementation of food healers and that sort of thing. So right now with Plantica, all the planning for it is on our Discord. So we're organized. We've got we're setting up these different groups. We've got the intentional communities group that's been meeting quite frequently, on a weekly basis, essentially. And then we're looking into starting some of these other groups like Vegan Health Group, Vegan Economy Group, which I think is largely going to be interested in food healer stuff. And then also Animal Sanctuaries Group, and then maybe Permaculture Group, Vegan Coaching Group. So if you're interested in getting involved with this, you can just go to the Plantica Discord server. I can put a link in the chat if that would be good. I don't know if there's a public chat here on Streamlabs. But yeah, so here I'll drop a link into the chat. So yeah, if you're interested in getting involved with this project where we're trying to help build up local vegan projects in your community, we'd love to hear from you. And I think one of the things, a lot of us in our group, we met through vegan activism, but it really helps to have community projects outside of just activism. I think that's one of the things that's shown can really lead to the strongest, most effective advocacy organizations when there's sort of a social side to it that isn't just the advocacy. So
Howard, tell us where you are first.
Sorry, I'm in Edmonton, Alberta, in Canada.
Okay.
I'm a professor here at the University of Alberta. So and we've got I think a lot of the people who got interested, that's where Dr. Gross is also in Edmonton, Alberta, here in Canada, and a lot of us folks who got interested in the Plantica thing started with Dr. Gross giving a talk at a local vegan meetup here in Edmonton. But we've got lots of people from all over the world who are interested in this.
So Dr. Gross, tell us a little bit about your practice and how you're getting people to join the vegan movement.
Okay, so I'm a family physician for I don't want to mention how many years, but at least 30 years. And I'm involved in lifestyle medicine. So the idea is how to improve the general health of my patient. That's why many patients come to see me, because I'm trying less to push drugs and medication and to work as much as possible with nature. And the best way to work with nature is food. Mm-hmm. So Jim mentioned before that the main thing that we need is to attract people, because without people we don't have anything. And people usually ask themselves, "What is there for me?" Right? They come to the project. They want to know what we get there. And I can tell you up front that what they get there is, first of all, they will be healthier. They will be happier, they will live longer with a better quality of life. And we have many, many studies, and I'm talking about double-blind studies with a very high quality to show that people that have this kind of lifestyle, vegan lifestyle, live longer with a better and a higher quality of life. And one of the references, for instance, is the Blue Zone project that I believe that you heard about it, and if not, you can just Google it. The Blue Zone project that runs in several states right now in United States, and started to spend in other places. They use a lot of principles right now that are proved to increase the lifestyle and to increase the longevity and the quality of life. So during my practice in medicine, I saw a huge difference between people, even if they were not vegan, but they change into a vegan lifestyle. And when we are talking about vegan lifestyle, it's not just to reduce meat, and which is amazing, and I completely encourage it. But those that really did it with wholehearted intention, and they did it in order, and they came to realize that this is the right way of living. I saw a huge difference in their health, and many of the symptoms that they suffered before, if it is headache, if it is rheumatic pain, if it is diabetes, if it is other stuff, they either reduced or completely vanished, depending on which stage they started to change. So I don't think that there is a better incentive for any human being than come and have better health, longer longevity, and better quality of life, and to be happy. That's amazing, and that's what we see.
Right.
But it doesn't end there. What we are talking about in Plantica is the whole spectrum, I would say, of the human interaction. We are talking about spirituality, which is very, very important, without connection to any deity, I would say, or to any religion. It's just to build a spirituality that will be common spirituality based on, I would say, humanism. And we are talking about we are talking about children, and we are talking about how to study and to learn to live in a different way. And that's where things needs to start, is from the children, is to build it up.
Right.
And education is one of the cornerstones, I would say, of society. And if we want to change society along the way, we need to start there with education. So we are talking about education, we are talking about health, we are talking about spiritual being, we are talking about economy. Economy is one of the institutions that it's very important. We are talking about vegan economy. And what Howard mentioned before about being, I would say, aware of the nature, you cannot detach, I would say, to be aware about the animals around us and to be compassionate about it. And it goes hand in hand in being vegan. You are vegan. By being vegan, you save many animals around you, and you care about the animals around you. By caring about the animals, you don't care only about the animals. You care about the whole world. You care about yourself, and you change yourself by doing that. So it's amazing. It's things that are interconnected one to the other. And I think that, Sailesh, you mentioned it before, by healing yourself, that's the interesting part, you heal the world.
Right.
And it works. You are healthier, the world is healthier, and they so connected between themselves. So it's amazing process. I'm very excited about it. I think that you can hear in my voice. I'm very excited about it. I think it's an amazing journey, and it works inside and it works outside. It works and it influences everyone around us. So we started something. I think that you used the word moonshot, and yes, it's moonshot, and I hope that it will be much faster than planning to land in Mars or in the moon. I believe that we can make it, and we see it, as Howard said, many people that are really enthusiastic about it, and they are joining. Howard just added the link to the Discord, and
Right.
we are looking forward to have more and more people, because everyone that joins add to the whole change that we are doing right now in the world. Everyone is important, and that's what we are looking for. And you say, I'm so excited to see all of you, and Jim. This is the first time that I had the opportunity to hear you and to see you. That's also fantastic. The whole plan that you put there. So we are really on the right way.
I had a question for the two of you. Have you guys collaborated with Plant Pure Communities that was started by Colin Campbell's son, Nelson? Are you familiar with that? I'm sure, right? It's
Nelson Campbell's.
Plant, well, you can Google it. Nelson Campbell.
Yeah, I'd be happy to introduce you to him.
Plant,
yeah, that will be great.
Plant Pure Communities.
Right. So it's basically, putting together this entire new way of living, which involves not, as you said, education, social institutions, infrastructure, a different outlook of humanity, because we are serving a purpose. The purpose is to heal the planet, heal the climate. Because once we acknowledge that humans are changing the climate, then we have automatically assumed responsibility for making sure it doesn't go haywire, right? So we are the climate regulators of the planet, whether we like it or not. So which means that our children should be educated to be climate healers when they come out of high school. They should know the basic knowledge about how to deal with nature, how to deal with the climate. And I think all science and all mathematics can be taught from perspective. All other things can be taught from that perspective. And of course, the maintaining the technology that we have created so that we can continue that, minimizing the waste, all those things will come into play, as Jim is pointing out. It's not like we don't have the technology. We know what to do. It's just that we don't get the resources to do it right now in the current system, because it's all based on preserving people's wealth or enhancing their own wealth, right? It's not about enhancing the wealth. So that's where the system change has to happen. To me, what is exciting about this is, when I started working on the internet back in the 90s, everything was analog. The communications were all analog. And I came along and I said, hey, let's do a digital signal processing version of this. We can actually crank it up by a factor of 10. They all laughed at me. They said, you're crazy. It cannot be done. Right? But we knew it could be done because all the technology was already there. Just like right now, all the technology is already here for us to create this vision. So it was just putting it together. So I didn't do anything extraordinary. I just put things together as an engineer would, made sure that there were no hiccups, and we made sure that we had processes in case there are hiccups. And voila, within 7 years, the internet was just taking off because it had gigabit backbone, digital backbone. And
Can I
see the same.
question?
Sorry?
Sorry to interrupt you. Can I interject a question here?
Sure.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask Jim here. We have the motive of vegan, and this is the time to mention. Howard mentions that we are vegan activists. I want to make it clear that when we say activist, in my opinion, the way is not to be activist, a provocative activist. So the idea is not to come with all these slogans and shouting and whatever. It's to be activist by example, okay? By showing that there is a better alternative, okay? That we can build a life that everybody would like to join. That's the idea. That's the activism that I see, okay? It's a peaceful activism. It's not a provocative activism. But that's the driving motives that we have. And Jim, I understand that from the beginning you didn't start from the vegan principle, if I understood it correctly. The idea wasn't the vegan, but you were driven by something else. So I was interested to understand and to know what drove you in the first place to get into this project.
Well, actually, it was all about food for me in the beginning. It started in 2002 when I got curious about the optimal diet for humans. And I began searching the internet, and I found Dr. John McDougall, and I found Caldwell Esselstyn and T. Colin Campbell. I've since gotten to know all of those people. And by 2011, that was 9 years later, I wrote my first book, Healthy Eating, Healthy World. And then in 2015, I wrote my second book with a medical doctor, The 4-Leaf Guide to Vibrant Health. And I wanted to mention, when you say vegan, that means different things to different people. Mm-hmm. And as you well know, just simply eating vegan doesn't necessarily mean you're going to reverse heart disease, because you could eat nothing but Diet Coke and potato chips, call yourself a vegan, and as I say, you'll be a dead vegan in a few months. So I sat with Dr. Campbell at breakfast in his home in Ithaca, New York, and I showed him my idea for the 4-Leaf survey, which was basically 12 questions, multiple choice. Everybody listening can take it online right now for free, 4leafsurvey.com. And it asks you 12 multiple choice questions, and it's designed to estimate the percent of your calories that come from whole plant-based foods, which was Dr. Campbell's definition. And so he gave me his stamp of approval, and later his organization, the Center, T. Colin Campbell Center for Nutrition Studies, actually underwrote the project to put the 4leafsurvey.com online. And so that's where I started, was all about the food. But within about a year of my beginning that, I realized, oh my God, we've got a lot of other problems too. And then it was maybe 2013 when I really realized that I thought if we changed our diet, we'd buy ourselves enough time to fix all of the other problems. But I realized we weren't making any progress on all of the other problems. And we hadn't really made much progress on the diet in terms of global. There are a lot more people moving toward the Western diet, standard Western diet now than there are moving the other direction. So that's when I got really, really serious about it, and became more driven by envisioning a whole picture of how we could live with plant-based eating being one of the main building blocks.
Yeah, so I couldn't agree more with what you say. Definitely, vegan diet doesn't describe the real good diets that we aim to. So the idea is to have a whole food diet, plant-based. That's true. This is the ideal, and vegan can be not healthy. Just to eat sugars and processed food. That's not the idea about vegan. So I completely concur. So that's part of the education. That's part of the whole change that we are talking about, as that people will understand and know better. And that's why we open the channels that Howard described there, in order to learn from these amazing doctors that were the frontiers about the whole food change, how to learn what is good nutrition. And this is one of our channels in the Discord is the health part that we invite people. Again, it's completely free. People can come join on a 1 week base. We are doing it over Zoom, so there is no problems that everybody throughout the world will join. And we are going through the literature, the important literature, to understand and to learn better what it is, I would say, backed up in science related to nutrition, because there are a lot of myths out there, and we know that. So the idea is how to debunk the myths and to work with all these nutrition facts that we know that they work. And that's one of our groups. That is the health groups that we have there in the Discord. Another group is the intentional societies, intentional communities that Howard leads, and there are other groups that start to build up. And if you will go there, and I think that Howard, you gave the link, right? You can find all the list of different groups that are starting to evolve, because as Sailesh said before, everything starts from education. So it's education, 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 and I'm completely adopted this slogan. This is the base. You cannot do anything without knowing the fact, and knowing the fact as they should be. So I think that that's where we start. First of all, to learn, to understand, to know what works and what doesn't work, and to move from there. So thank you, Jim, for mentioning the part of the nutrition that we didn't mention before. Yes, vegan can be completely unhealthy. We are not talking about vegan per se. We are talking about healthy vegan. That's why I said healthy vegan, not only vegan.
Right.
And thank you very much for mentioning it.
You're welcome.
Yeah, also I look at it as from an axiomatic standpoint. See, there are axioms that have to change because our system is so messed up because it's based on axioms that are not correct. It's not true. One axiom is animals have been put on Earth for humans to exploit, or the Earth is there for humans to exploit. That's an axiom in our current system, right? We go around with bulldozers, killing things, destroying things, putting animals in factory farms, and all these things, right? So we have an assumption there that says that animals are there for us. That is not true. That's one of the first axioms that we need to overturn. The second axiom we need to overturn is humans are happiness machines who have to consume in order to get their happiness. So happiness is outside of you. Go grab it from there, and it's all about meeting your desires. And we have known for thousands of years that that's not true. That's absolutely untrue. Right? We know that your happiness comes from within you. In fact, the more you depend on happiness outside, the less happy you will be. We know that. So that's another axiom that needs to change in the system. So it's, building a new system has to be based on axioms that are true, foundations that are true. And,
I wanted to add something there.
Yeah.
I was thinking the other day, there's been life on this planet for 4 billion years.
Right.
And we are the only species who has, out of trillions probably of species, who has not chosen to live in harmony with nature. The only one. Yet, we now have created all these animals that we eat. We've created these animals for our pets. We've created animals for the zoos. And all of these animals now are really part of one species, us. And that's the problem. And we've done so much damage in just the 2 seconds that we've been here relative to that 4 billion years that we really have to use our brain power and our artificial intelligence and our leadership and our knowledge of systemic change and healthy eating to turn this thing around. Thank you for having us, Sailesh.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
I wanted to mention something that you to add to what you discuss it right now, Sailesh. That reminds me about the ways that we saw the world just a few hundred years ago. And we saw the planet Earth as the center of the universe.
Right.
And the sun is revolving around us.
Right.
And that's the way that we saw it. And I think that what happens right now is that we see ourself as the center of universe, that we conquer the animals and we conquer everything, and everything revolves around us, instead of understanding that we are part of the universe, instead of understanding that we need to live in harmony with universe and not everything revolves around us. And that's, I would say, the analogy or the corollary to what happened in the medieval time. So we need to move from the medieval time to the Renaissance, and that's I think where we are right now.
It's really about, I mean, if you ask me, it was Western science, Western civilization that thought that way. Every civilization has gone through its own understandings of the world and then coming into alignment with nature, usually after messing up locally, right? So we messed up locally and then we fixed it locally and we moved on. The same thing happened in North America. North American civilization initially wiped out all the megafauna. The big grazers all disappeared. And then they figured out how to live in harmony with nature. Now what is happening with Western civilization is Western civilization has colonized everyone. First of all, when you colonize someone, you go tell them, you know nothing. We know everything, right? And so we impose our rules on them, our knowledge on them. And then we slowly discover that they actually knew something. So over time, then it is the assimilation of this knowledge that brings us out of the mess that we are in. And now we have to do this globally because Western civilization has done it globally. But that's okay. We have done this before. It's not like we haven't done this before, right? So I think this way, I like to tell the story that nature has been using us to create a stable climate without any ice ages for the rest of eternity. And now I like that story because that makes me feel like I'm part of something much, much larger. And as part of that, we are going to change. So thank you all very, very much. It's been a stimulating discussion. And thinking good thoughts for Stuart Scott for his surgery. Let's hope he gets better soon. And then let us create this new vegan infrastructure and institutions together. When we come together, there's nothing that can stop us. So thank you all for being here.
Thank you. Thank you very much to all of you.
Nice to meet you guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.